There is someone in your life, maybe a coworker, a neighbor, maybe someone you grew up with, and when something goes wrong, Zeno just handles it. The car won't start. Zeno pops the hood. The kitchen is flooding. Zeno finds the shutoff valve. Someone is falling apart emotionally. Zeno sits down, stays calm, and says exactly the right thing. And you are standing there thinking, how? How does Zeno not panic? How does Zeno not freeze up the way I do? Here is what most people get wrong. They think it is talent, or just good genes. But the research tells a completely different story, one that actually includes you. Because this ability, this quiet, steady capability that Zeno carries, it was built, piece by piece, through very specific psychological experiences. And once you understand how it was built, you will realize something important. You can build it too. So how did Zeno get this way? What actually happened inside Zeno that made problems feel approachable instead of terrifying? Back in the late 1970s, a psychologist named Albert Bandura discovered something that changed the way we understand human behavior. He called it self-efficacy, and in plain, everyday language, it simply means this: your personal belief that you are capable of handling what is right in front of you. Not blind optimism, not telling yourself everything is going to be fine when it clearly is not. Something much quieter than that, something that lives deeper. It is the inner voice that says, I have dealt with hard things before. This hard thing in front of me right now is no different. Bandura found that this one belief, just this single internal conviction, changes everything. It changes how long someone sticks with a problem before walking away. It changes how much energy they put in when things get tough. It literally shapes whether a person tries at all. And here is where it gets really interesting. Zeno was not born with this. Nobody is. It grew. It was built through something Bandura called mastery experiences. And a mastery experience is not complicated at all. It is simply a moment where you tried something and it worked. Think about a little kid. They jiggle the TV remote and it comes back on. They help their mom carry something heavy and it gets done. They figure out how to open a stuck jar. Small stuff. Stuff nobody writes home about. But every single one of those tiny moments does something powerful to that child's brain. It quietly rewires how they see themselves in relation to the world around them. The world stops being something that just happens to them. It becomes something they can actually touch and change. And every time after that, when something breaks, their brain does not send a panic signal. It sends something closer to curiosity. Oh, something needs fixing. I have done this before. That is the foundation Zeno is standing on. And it was built one small moment at a time. Now there is another piece to this that a psychologist named Julian Rotter spent years studying. He called it locus of control. And what it really comes down to is this: do you believe your actions actually make a difference? Or do you believe life is mostly just luck, fate, or things outside your hands? People who believe their effort matters, what Rotter called an internal locus of control, do not just fix things better. Research shows they are less likely to experience depression. They handle stress without their whole life falling apart. They keep going longer when things get hard. And this has been found across all kinds of people, all ages, all backgrounds, all across the country. That deep sense of what I do matters. It turns out to be one of the most protective things a person can carry inside them. And Zeno has it. Not because Zeno was lucky, but because somewhere along the way, Zeno had experiences that built it. Sometimes it came from a parent who said, I am not going to solve this for you, but I will stay right here while you figure it out. And sometimes it came from the opposite, a home where nobody was around to help, and Zeno had no choice but to figure things out alone. Both roads lead to the same place. Both build the same thing inside a person. Now here is the part that surprises most people. Because from the outside, Zeno looks completely confident, calm, certain. But that is not actually what is happening on the inside. Zeno feels the same uncertainty you feel, the same knot in the stomach, the same not knowing. The difference is that Zeno does not experience that uncertainty as a stop sign. Zeno experiences it as a starting line. Psychologists call this tolerance of ambiguity, the ability to sit inside a situation where you do not have the answer yet and stay functional anyway. Stay present, keep moving, not because it feels comfortable, but because Zeno has learned that discomfort is not the same thing as danger. Now I want to stop here for a second, because there is something important that needs to be said honestly. Not every Zeno you have ever met is operating from a healthy place. Some people who seem to fix everything, every problem, every crisis, every emotional situation for everyone around them, learn to do it out of survival, not strength. At some point in their lives, being helpless was genuinely risky. Maybe they grew up in a home where love had to be earned, where approval only showed up when they had a solution. And so their brain made a very logical decision. I will never be the person without an answer again. That is not confidence. That is a coping mechanism wearing confidence as a costume. And the way you can tell the difference is simple. Ask that Zeno to step back and let someone else handle something. Watch what happens. They cannot relax. They hover. They jump in without being asked. Because an unsolved problem in the room does not just feel inconvenient to them. It feels threatening, like something unresolved living inside their own chest. If you recognize yourself in that, please hear this gently. That pattern made sense once. It kept you safe. But it is worth asking whether it is still working for you now. And then there is the other kind of Zeno, the one who fixes things simply because broken things genuinely fascinate them. The gap between not working and working is one of the most interesting places in the world to this Zeno. They take things apart just to understand them better. They walk away from a fixed problem, already thinking about the next one. These people are in love with the process itself, not the applause, not the approval, just the pure satisfaction of figuring something out. Being around a Zeno like that changes something in you, because what they show you without even trying is this. Not knowing how to do something is just a temporary state, and temporary things can always be changed. Maybe you watched this whole video wishing you were more like Zeno, and I want to tell you something straight. You can be. Not by forcing it, not overnight, but by starting small. Fix one tiny thing today. Make the call you have been avoiding. Stay with the discomfort just a little longer than you normally would. That is how Zeno got there, one small moment at a time. And if this video helped you see yourself a little more clearly today, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe, because this is exactly the kind of conversation we have here every week.